I'm going to tell you about the day I almost lost nearly everything, not because of bad fortune, not because of a fire or a storm, but because I opened my mouth to the wrong man. It was 1967. I'd been operating my shoe shop for 15 years. Business was strong. I'd saved enough money to finally purchase the building instead of renting it. My landlord, Mr. Castellano, was growing old and wanted to sell. We'd shaken hands on a price. I was 3 weeks away from owning my own building, and I made the mistake of telling somebody. His name was Vincent Mell. Came into my shop every month for a polish. Nice enough fellow, I thought. We'd talk about the Dodgers leaving Brooklyn, about the neighborhood shifting, about this and that. I trusted him because I'd known him for years, because he seemed like a buddy. So when he asked how things were going, I told him honestly. Vinny, I said, I'm purchasing the building. 3 weeks, it's mine. I was proud. I wanted to share the good news. 2 days later, Mr. Castellano called me. Someone had offered him 20% more than our agreed price. Cash immediate payment. You want to guess who it was? Vincent Mel bought my building out from under me. And for the next 8 years, until he sold it to someone else, he was my landlord. He increased my rent twice, made my life harder in small ways that added up, all because I couldn't keep my mouth closed about something that wasn't finished yet. That's when I realized there are things you should never tell anyone. Not because you're dishonest, not because you're secretive, but because words carry power. And once they leave your mouth, you can't control where they travel. My name is Salvatore Benedetto, and today I want to share with you 7 things I've learned to keep to myself. Lessons that took me decades and a lot of pain to understand. The first thing, you should never tell anyone how much money you possess. This one seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people get it wrong. When I was young, money was something you simply didn't discuss. It was private, like your health or your marriage. You didn't brag about having it, and you didn't complain about not having it. That was simply how things worked. But I've watched that slowly change over the decades. People now talk about salaries, savings, investments, sometimes with strangers, sometimes online for the entire world to see. And I've watched what happens afterward. A man I knew, Thomas Whitfield, worked at the shipyard, came into an inheritance in 1971. His aunt passed away and left him $30,000, a lot of money back then, enough to change his life. Thomas made the mistake of telling people, not everyone, but enough individuals, his co workers, some neighbors, a few friends from church. Within a month, everyone had their hand out. His brother-in-law needed a loan for a business that never appeared. His cousin had medical bills. His neighbor's kid needed tuition. People he barely knew suddenly remembered how close they'd been. Thomas couldn't say no. He was a kind man and he felt guilty for having something others didn't. By the end of the year, the inheritance was gone. Most of it never returned. But here's the worst part. The people he gave money to, they resented him anyway because he couldn't give them more, because he eventually had to say no because knowing about his money changed how they viewed him, and not in a good way. When you tell people how much you have, you change the relationship. If you have more than them, they feel either jealous or entitled. If you have less, they either pity you or lose respect. There's no version where knowing your finances makes things better. So, here's my advice: keep your money private. Your spouse needs to know, your accountant needs to know, maybe your children when the time is right, but your co-workers, your neighbors, your friends, they don't need to know. And knowing won't help anyone. If someone asks, and in my experience, people who ask directly are usually people you shouldn't tell. Just smile and change the subject. We're doing fine, thank you. How about those Yankees? Your bank balance is nobody's business but your own. The second thing you should never tell anyone: your plans before they're completed. This is the lesson Vincent Mell taught me the hard way. When you have a plan, a big plan, something you're working toward, there's a temptation to share it. You're excited, you want approval, you want people to be happy for you. But here's what happens when you share a plan too early. First, you give other people the chance to interfere, like Vincent did to me, like countless others have done to people who couldn't stay quiet about their intentions. Second, you invite opinions you didn't ask for. Everyone suddenly has advice. Everyone suddenly thinks they know better, and their doubt can infect your confidence, make you question yourself, slow you down. Third, and this is the strange one, talking about your plans can actually make you less likely to achieve them. Scientists have studied this. When you tell people about your goals, your brain gets some of the same satisfaction it would get from actually completing them. You feel good without doing the work, and then the motivation fades. I learned to keep my plans quiet until they were done, or at least until they were so far along that nobody could stop them. When I decided to marry Gloria, I didn't tell anyone until I had the ring in my pocket and a date set. Not because I was ashamed, I was proud, happier than I'd been in decades, but because I knew people would have opinions. I knew my son would object. I knew the neighborhood would talk, and I didn't want their noise in my head while I was making one of the most important decisions of my life. So, here's my advice: protect your plans with silence, work on them quietly, make them real, and only share them when they're strong enough to withstand whatever comes next. There's an old Italian saying, whoever speaks scatters, whoever stays silent gathers. Gather your plans until they're ready. Then you can scatter all you want. The third thing you should never tell anyone: what you truly think of your boss or anyone with power over you. I ran my own shop for 53 years, so I didn't have a boss, but I had landlords, I had suppliers, I had inspectors and tax collectors and neighborhood politicians who could make my life easy or difficult, depending on how they felt about me. And I learned very quickly, you do not criticize the people who have power over you, not to anyone, not ever, because words travel. A young man who worked for me in the 70s, I'll call him Danny, he hated one of our suppliers. And honestly, the supplier was difficult, overcharged, delivered late, acted like he was doing us a favor. Danny had every right to be frustrated, but Danny made the mistake of complaining about this supplier to another customer, just venting, he thought, letting off steam. That customer happened to be the supplier's cousin. I lost that supplier. Had to find another one. Worse terms. Took me 6 months to sort it out, and Danny, I had to let him go, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't trust his judgment anymore. Here's the truth about complaining. It almost never helps and it often hurts. If you have a problem with someone who has authority over you, your boss, your landlord, anyone, either address it directly with them or keep it to yourself. Telling other people accomplishes nothing except spreading information that can come back to damage you. Your spouse can know. That's what marriage is for. Having someone safe to talk to, but even then, be careful. Don't let venting become a habit. Don't let complaining become your personality. So here's my advice. Before you say something negative about anyone, ask yourself, what do I gain by saying this? What could I lose? Usually the answer is you gain nothing but momentary relief and you could lose a lot. Keep it to yourself. Find another way to process the frustration. Go for a walk, hit a punching bag, build something with your hands, but don't let words be your release. Words have consequences that last longer than feelings. The fourth thing you should never tell anyone, your weaknesses and fears unless you trust them completely. Now, I'm not saying you should never be vulnerable. Vulnerability is important. Opening up to people is how you build real relationships, but not everyone deserves your vulnerability, and giving it to the wrong person can destroy you. I had a friend, Mario Bianchi, knew him since we were teenagers, who made the mistake of confiding his deepest fear to someone he believed was a friend. Mario was terrified of public speaking, terrified, would shake, sweat, sometimes couldn't get words out at all. He told this to a colleague at work looking for sympathy, maybe some guidance. A year later, Mario was up for a promotion, and somehow the hiring committee knew all about his public speaking problem. Someone had told them. The promotion went to someone else. Mario spent the rest of his career stuck, passed over because he trusted the wrong person with something private. Your fears and weaknesses are valuable information to the wrong people. In the hands of someone who loves you, there are opportunities for support and understanding. In the hands of someone who doesn't have your best interest at heart, they become weapons. So here's my advice. Be selective about who gets access to your inner world. Before you share something vulnerable, ask yourself, has this person earned my trust? Have they shown me over time that they can be trusted with sensitive information? Do they have my best interests at heart, even when it's inconvenient for them? If the answer is yes, share. Vulnerability builds intimacy. If the answer is no, or even maybe, keep it to yourself. There are other ways to connect that don't require handing someone ammunition. The fifth thing, you should never tell anyone other people's secrets. This one isn't about protecting yourself. It's about becoming someone worth trusting. When someone tells you something in confidence, they're giving you a gift. They're saying, I trust you enough to show you something I don't show everyone. Please handle it carefully. And what you do with that gift says everything about who you are. I've known people who couldn't keep a secret for 5 minutes. You'd tell them something private, and by dinner it would be all over the neighborhood. They didn't mean harm usually, they just liked having interesting information, liked being the one who knew things. But here's what happened to those people. Eventually, nobody told them anything real anymore. Their relationships became shallow. They were included but not trusted, known but not truly known. Because if you can't keep other people's secrets, nobody will give you their heart. My wife Gloria told me once near the end of her life that one of the things she loved most about me was that I knew how to stay silent. She said, "In 40 years, you never told anyone anything I asked you to keep private, not even when you were angry at me. Not even when it would have made you look good." She was right. I never did, because her trust was more important than any story I could tell. So here's my advice. When someone tells you something in confidence, treat it like it doesn't exist. Don't hint at it. Don't reference it. Don't tell anyone, not even people you trust, not even if it seems harmless. Be a vault. Be the person everyone knows can keep a secret. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give, and one of the best ways to build relationships that actually mean something. The sixth thing you should never tell anyone: that you're thinking about leaving your job, your neighborhood, your relationship before you're ready to go. This goes back to what I said about plans, but it's specific enough that it deserves its own attention. When you tell people you're thinking about leaving, everything changes immediately. Tell your employer you're considering quitting, and suddenly you're not getting the best projects. You're not being prepared for promotion. They're already searching for your replacement. Tell your neighbors you're considering moving, and suddenly you're an outsider. You're not part of the community anymore. You're someone with one foot outside the door. Tell your partner you're thinking about leaving. And even if you stay, the relationship is damaged. They'll always wonder if you're about to leave. The trust is broken. I knew a woman, Catherine O'Brien, lived 3 houses down, who told her husband she was thinking about divorce. Not that she wanted one, just that she was thinking about it. She was unhappy, wanted him to pay attention, thought it would be a wake up call. It worked. He paid attention, but he never trusted her again. Every argument after that, you could see it in his eyes. Is this the moment she leaves? The marriage limped on for another 10 years, but the comfort was gone. The security was gone. If Catherine had either left or committed to staying, things might have been different. But by announcing her uncertainty, she poisoned the well. So here's my advice: don't announce your exit until you're walking through the door. If you're unhappy at work, either fix it or find another job first. If you're unhappy in your neighborhood, either make peace with it or start packing. If you're unhappy in your relationship, either work on it with your whole heart or end it cleanly. But don't hover in the doorway. Don't threaten to leave as a negotiating tactic. Don't use the possibility of your absence as a weapon. It rarely works the way you hope, and it always changes things in ways you can't undo. The seventh thing you should never tell anyone: family business. Every family has problems, conflicts, failures, secrets, shame. That's normal. That's human. No family is perfect. But what happens inside your family should stay inside your family. I've seen so many people make this mistake. They're upset with a sibling, so they tell the neighbors. They're angry at their parents, so they tell their co workers. They're frustrated with their spouse, so they complain to anyone who will listen. And here's what happens. People remember your argument with your brother might be resolved in 2 weeks, but the neighbor you complain to, they still think your brother is terrible. They still look at him differently. They've formed an opinion based on your worst moment, and they'll carry that opinion for years. When my son didn't speak to me for 2 years, it hurt. It hurt more than almost anything in my life, but I didn't tell people. I didn't complain about him to the customers, didn't criticize him to the neighbors, because I knew if I poisoned people against my son, I'd be making it harder for him to come back. I'd be building walls that would outlast our conflict. And he did come back eventually. And when he did, there were no awkward looks from neighbors who'd heard terrible things, no grudges from friends who'd taken sides. We could rebuild privately the same way we'd broken privately. So here's my advice: keep your family problems inside your family. Fight if you need to fight. Be angry if you need to be angry. But don't recruit an audience. Don't turn your private struggles into public entertainment. The people outside your family don't need to know, and knowing won't help anyone. Not them, not you, not the family member you're upset with. Some things are sacred. Your family, even when it's broken, even when it's painful, is one of them. I'm 106 years old. I've spoken a lot of words in my life, millions of them probably, and most of them were fine. Most of them didn't matter much, one way or another, but some of them I wish I could take back. Some of them caused damage I couldn't undo. Some of them taught me lessons I'm still carrying decades later. Vincent Mell buying my building, Mario Bianchi losing his promotion, Catherine O'Brien's broken marriage, my own son's silence, all of it. Every bit of it could have been avoided with a simple skill, knowing when to keep your mouth shut. I'm not telling you to be secretive. I'm not telling you to be dishonest. I'm not telling you to live behind walls that keep everyone out. I'm telling you to be strategic, to recognize that words carry power, to understand that once you say something, you can't unsay it. It exists in the world, moving through other people's minds, shaping how they see you and what they do with that knowledge. You are not obligated to share everything with everyone. Your money is yours. Your plans are yours. Your fears, your family, your intentions, all yours. Share them with the people who've earned it. Protect them from the people who haven't. And remember, silence isn't dishonesty. Silence is wisdom. The words you don't say can't be used against you.